with the white pieces. What's happening here?
Oh, another Sicilian defense, and this time Maxime-Vachier Lagrave is heading towards the Najdorf.
Okay, his speciality.
His speciality, one of everyone's favorite openings, I think. Of course, favorite of Kasparov, of Fischer, some legendary world champions. And okay, ooh, the players repeated the moves there just for a moment. There is a famous Najdorf draw of White's bishop dropping back, getting hit. But of course, these players want to fight, and we're back towards the main line. Slightly different pawn structure, Tanya, to the other Najdorf, but it's going to be equally fighting.
Then Magnus is the one who goes for the Najdorf, and Maxime says, you can't do that against me. I'm the Najdorf expert here. So it is a day of the Open Sicilian, and I'm loving it already.
Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot from this game in terms of where to put your pieces for both sides in this type of structure. Black is super flexible, and I would argue that Black is much more flexible in this kind of branch of the Najdorf than Magnus was in the previous game, where we saw him fix the center very early on. And are you surprised, Tanya? Because if Magnus plays 1e4, he's hoping for the Sicilian Najdorf, surely.
Yeah, he is. But Maxime's not one that's afraid. This is an opening that Maxime has played all his life against the very best players in the world. So it doesn't matter who he's playing, how well they're prepared. Maxime really knows all the ins and outs of this opening. So it's going to be quite an interesting middle game battle. What does Magnus have in mind against Maxime's Najdorf? For now, Maxime stops any advance on the king side. The g-pawn has been stalled. You really don't want to pick up the b4 pawn as white right now. You could end up facing big troubles if you're inaccurate. Magnus decides to go for long castle immediately. And now for Maxime, does he continue with development, improving the bishop? He starts with improving his knight, brings it on to e5.
Yes, this branch of the Sicilian, named after Argentinian Grandmaster Miguel Najdorf, it's combative, it's a favorite of several world champions, and it's not a coincidence. Black has such a flexible position. You keep all the pieces on the board. It's so dynamic, and that's all you need when you want to outplay your opponents.
Did you ever delve into the Najdorf yourself with Black?
Yes, but not very successfully. I quickly gave up that experiment, Tanya, and it goes against...
Oh, he does it!
Yeah, it goes against what we're taught, opening the position when your opponent's king is slightly safer, when your king is sitting in the middle uncastled. But he does it. I think he's ready, because pawn takes pawn here would be met by a knight jump, and these two black knights just control everything, threatening to take maybe, threatening to jump into a nice hole in the opponent's camp. I think Magnus here has to be really careful how he treads. He does attack this black knight, very logical. And if the black knight moves, maybe he's aiming to block up the center.
And Black's own bishop on d7, very often it can actually move to b5, offering a trade, even at the cost of the pawn. It has to be timed really well, obviously not right now, but to open up the A line. So there are these ideas that exist. What on earth just happened?
Vachier Lagrave has sacrificed a piece out of the blue. Totally unexpected. Let's do a quick action replay. His knight was attacked. More positional players, more conservative players would have retreated their knight, but he jumps in, gives up a whole piece, and he lands another knight in the center of the board. It's a piece for 2-pawn sacrifice. He's only sacrificed 1 point, but this knight is going to jump into some nice squares.
David, he goes with a similar idea to f6, defending the g7 pawn, but in a different way. He lines it up with the rook, and bishop c5 is coming next.
Wow, Magnus jumps forward. I was going to say to jump, to kind of push his g-pawn in order to try and get his bishop on the long diagonal, a really promising diagonal. But, okay, Magnus does not allow this. He first jumps in with his knight. And what is the idea? He's got something up his sleeve, surely, to meet bishop c5, attacking this white queen. What is it? He only has one safe square. If he drops back, the black knight might come and start forking.
But that's queen at 7.
Yeah, maybe it's this, queen to h7, hitting the undefended rook. Magnus has seen deeper. Yeah, there we go. It's on the board. Magnus, will he retreat his queen? As we're expecting, the fact he's paused queen sacrifice. Magnus Carlsen surprising us, not retreating to a passive square, gives up his queen, and then Maxime gives the queen straight back. That was crazy. Let's do an action replay because the dust has settled now, but I mean, the players, they're so good. They're another level. They saw all of that, and it wasn't obvious at all. The queen retreating to d3 was the move we expected, the only safe square, but Magnus, of course, surprised us. Queen takes knight, giving up his queen for 2 pieces. Knight takes d7 now, so he's got a bishop and a knight for that queen. All sorts of threats, such as hitting this bishop. Maxime did not even hesitate, giving the queen back for the knight and a rook this time. Let's do some counting on a beautiful square, beautiful outpost, trying to come in. What is next for white? it's a mystery. For example, we could maybe just see a trade and the white knight come forward. Here we would see a weird material imbalance of queen for 3 pieces. Black has a queen, white has a knight and 2 bishops. So again, 9 for 9 there pretty much, but it's all about the activity of the pieces. Maybe he was just terrified that the white knight would come in and the black king's still not entirely safe. So instead of this material imbalance, he goes for a different one where he's actually material up.
Think he is actively using breathing?
I know a lot of players do. Gukesh, I think, meditates, Eric Geisy, Vidit.
Yeah. I think it just really brings out their ability to control themselves and to calm themselves down and just really the best in them. And that's why they're champions.
Yeah. And they probably enjoy it as well, right? When it is fire on the board. I was actually going to ask right before Magnus sacrificed his queen if it was sort of giving Maxime an edge that he had sacrificed a piece because, well, if I lose this game, then at least I played something beautiful. Is it a mind game by Magnus then to sacrifice himself so he sort of gets, you know, levels the mind games again?
What's happening on the board. If they feel like that's the best alternative, that's the best option, so concrete, just calculated till the end. Neither of these players wants to go into a passive position, wants to defend long term. So they always go for these combative options for 40 moves, and then you make 1 inaccuracy, and it all just goes down the drain. None of it really matters, and it's heartbreaking, and nobody cares about how beautiful the game was.
And this one, will it be a winner in this game, or will we have a third draw? What do you think?
With this material imbalance, a draw seems least likely right now. I'm not sure. I mean, the evaluation bar slightly prefers white, but I'm not sure in practical terms whose position is easier to play. White has the 2 bishops, which usually triumph over a rook, but look at that massive black pawns on the king side. White is doing a good job right now. Magnus is kind of prioritizing blockading. Then the tables could turn. So it's not clear what next. I really like what Maxime's been doing. He's just kind of sitting on the position right now, and he's making it hard for white to improve.
We have bishop h6 on the board, by the way. I thought rook h8 runs into bishop g5.
Yeah, a check. And this bishop, of course, can be taken, but the white rook can now capture the black rook on h8 with impunity. The problem is maybe this black pawn is starting to roll. I mean, this is such a crazy position. How is the evaluation bar still almost in the center? White is a bishop up. I don't understand. But maybe
Just
these
for a
pawns are
pawn.
rolling.
He's reaching out, but if not rook to h8, then white just anyway falls back with the bishop activating his own rook, and Maxime does go for counterattack against the other bishop on e2.
We'll defend it, but the bishop gains time against black's rook, which will go back.
Black's rook has to watch out, right? Because you want to stay connected to that g5 square that you pointed out earlier. Bishop g5 is also a threat in the position, so expecting Maxime to move the rook along the g line.
Somewhere. He's fought for choice. 3 or 4 safe squares. He drops back, hitting the white bishop.
So those 2 pawns keep the white bishops tied down to the defense of them rolling forward. But Magnus, he's jumping around, shuffling around with the bishop, first threatening a check on one side and now entering from the other side. Bishop c5 in the air, the rook jumping onto h7, joining the attack. There can be fire against black's king, even though there's such few material on the board.
And the 2 bishops are great attacking pieces.
Rook h7, rook f7, a mating net.
Mating net around the black king, potentially. Let's just show that type of idea. If Maxime is careless, of course he won't be, but if he just plays
Magnus reacts here.
Ooh, maybe he's missed something. If Maxime were to just make a random move, let's say he repeats, then the white rook could come in and behind, and okay, the evaluation bar reacts, but this would have been a mating pattern. At least black now entering the center. Whoops, my arrows are crazy today. But pawn to f4 in the air, still not immediately a threat, but white goes behind.
So if you go f4, you give a check, the king has to fall back, and then the f4 pawn. Well, he goes for f4.
Whoa, this would be a trick.
What?
Bishop takes f4 now would be losing, Tanya, because look at this. Suddenly it's black who's mating the white king.
Oh, my God.
This is a deadly trick, a really, really dastardly trap here. I missed something. That is the key now for Magnus, and he does give this check. But if he takes this pawn, he'll lose. He doesn't take the bait there.
Wow.
And he finds the best move, gaining time against black's rook. That being said, black's pawns are pretty impressive right now. So if black can survive the next few moves and get them rolling, then Maxime still has a chance.
And these bishops can start sort of coordinating together to start hitting the black rook. Rook d7, you can ask more questions. Bishop to b5, it's just not so easy for the rooks to feel comfortable once the bishops start coming after them. But he takes the pawn, but doesn't this allow
Oh, and the evaluation bar is getting confused here. The black pawns are rolling. I think there was no mating net there because white would have eliminated the remaining black pawn, the pawn on b4, and white's king would have had some breathing space. So Maxime, he's going all in. He's thrown all of his chips behind his pawns here in the center, and they're rolling.
But it's the black king, David. There can be a mating net with the two bishops and the rook trying to line up against black's king, but I'm not seeing it.
The good thing for Magnus is these pawns, they're rolling, but he can give up one of his bishops for them, and he should be relatively safe there. He plays the most natural check, but the evaluation bar says no. How frustrating is this? The black king has only got 2 safe squares. It gains time against the white rook. And now, does Maxime make a new queen? No, he doesn't. Oof, crazy move here. Don't take this black rook. Black will make a new queen. This rook is poisoned, and the other black pawn is going to roll.
I love that move by Maxime, just offering his rook. You can't take it. And as you said, it defends the e-pawn, wanting to go e6 next. And the bar is just going crazy. There's a bit of yo-yo going on, and nobody knows what's happening.
Yeah, yo-yo, YOLO. It's just one of those games, one of those positions in Tanya. I'm just going to jump in very quickly to point out a crazy tactic that Maxime-Vachier actually missed just a few turns ago. Here he played rook to e1, a move we really like, defending this pawn. He could have played the insane rook to d3. This isn't me, don't worry. It's the computer. Rook to d3, and black makes a new queen. You simply give up your rook to cut the connection with the bishop and this promotion square. Watch out for this to arise later. The evaluation bar says still complicated, but yeah, it's just that type of position. Tricks all over the shop.
That's stunning. Rook d3. Oh, what a move. But you can't fault Maxime for not finding that one. And now Magnus lines it up against the f2 pawn. Black can start advancing the e pawn.
There's just no easy moves. Oh, black.
Was that a blunder?
Makes a blunder, but why is this a mistake? It looks very natural, trying to eliminate one of white's bishops. The bishops are the only pieces that stop black's pawns. It looks like a very logical move to me, but maybe this is the refutation.
It's so nice because it's all about the intermezzo. If you take that bishop on c4, white will not recapture the rook, but go bishop takes e3 with a check.
Key moment, he has to give away his bishop, take a pawn with check, and look at Maxime-Vachier, suddenly hand on his face. He tries to keep a poker face, but he missed this one. And here we go. White simply takes that black rook. White's rook. Remember, rooks behind passed pawns, they control everything. And suddenly, Magnus's queenside pawns will run. Black is too slow in this race.
And Maxime knows it. He looks away. It has been an up and down roller coaster game, but I think the ride is coming to an end now for Maxime. With the f-pawn stopped by the rook, nobody's going to stop the pawns on the queen side. And Magnus there shaking his head.
And Magnus takes the win. Maxime resigns.
Wow, we have the first decided game